Boba Fett.
And we're live. Welcome to the Boba Fett companion series. I'm Pixelnick, and joining me tonight is the illustrious Chadwick III. Chad, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I got this. I feel like I have a head cold or COVID. I don't know what you want to call it.
Yeah,
I have a head
one or the
cold.
other.
Pretty sure it's just a head cold. Feeling a little like stuffy, but that's okay. Glad you're here.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm here. Mike's not here. I think he didn't say it, but I'm pretty sure he's just taking a night off because, spoiler alert, Marathon Mike did like 4 different podcast related things this week, plus infilled the other evenings with game streams. So I get it. He doesn't have to say it. I get it.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we are doing quite a lot here lately, especially with the companion series going. It's like sometimes 3 episodes a week. It's like, oh my goodness. But I've adjusted to it at this point. I think it's just like a normal thing.
Yeah, I think just to reflect on that a little bit. So, like our first companion series when we did second season of Mando, we did not do the newscast yet. So, like it was shortly after Mando ended. We started the newscast, and then this is the first time Mike and I have done a companion series.
Oh, right. Yeah,
since the newscast on top of the Thursday episode. So that's a good point because I've been thinking about the same thing. I'm like, why does it seem like so much? And it's just, I think it's the fact that like all 3 of us are doing all 3 of those things
Yes. Yeah, right. Yeah, definitely. I think that might be it. I put the light on over here. I have never done it before, and I think I liked it because it makes it look a little less crack-denny. But then you can see back into the black abyss, which is just not as fun,
now.
right?
Little less black abyss this evening.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I'm gonna turn the light down just a little bit. A lot of screen glare.
There you go. So let's get into what we came here to do.
That's
Unless you got other stuff you want to get to.
No, just shout out SJT for the remix on the intro. Obviously check out and subscribe everywhere to all the Showboys stuff. But I'm not going to do the whole mic bit because we'll be here another 3 minutes. So we're just going to get right into it. And this evening, Chad is going to take his first swing at leading the recap of his first companion series.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah. I'm excited too. I somewhat led the recap on Spider-Man when Jordan and I did that.
Yeah.
But I didn't have like necessarily something to go off. We were just shooting from the hip. But let's start before we even get into the episode. Did you like this episode?
Sign up for our Patreon to see Spider-Man's Chad's Spider-Man episode with Jordan. It's good. I saw the first 5 minutes because I had to edit
and then you stopped. Yeah.
But yeah, did I like the episode? Yes, I really, really like this episode. I started a quick recap from Star Wars Theory, their page. That dude's pretty cool, but he said this is his second favorite. Episode 2 being his favorite, which was the big.
What happened in episode 2?
It was the giant Tusken sequence.
Oh, the train sequence.
Yeah, basically where like we got like all the Tusken stuff we could possibly want.
Yeah.
But man, I think this is definitely my favorite episode so far.
Yeah, I think I might line up with you. I do like the train sequence, and I love the Tusken stuff. And I said that I wanted more of that, so I can't complain when they gave it to me. But what I had been asking for came in this episode, so I'm excited to get to it. But anyway.
Yeah.
So we open on a shot of Boba's tank. It seems like a reoccurring theme here lately. We're opening on. Is it every episode we open with the tank? I feel like it
just
might be.
About. Yeah, just about.
And we quickly transition to a flashback of Boba riding through the deserts of Tatooine, and we see him approaching Jabba's palace and taking a defensive sniper position and checking out the security of the palace. Boba leaves, commenting to his bantha that today is not the day. Too much security outside. And you put in here, we get the answer to something we've been pondering. Where is the hangar at Jabba's palace? Which is something we've been asking.
Yeah, and I was so like, just they opened the episode right up, and I was so excited to see that. I was like, we just talked about this. I was like, this is the hangar. Like, this is where the sail barge goes. And then I went a little extra, and I I was looking up Jabba's palace. I think because I wanted to I want to know a little bit on the history of it, like where the thing even came from. But in it definitely looks like an older cutaway, like from one of the books where they did the cutaways of things.
Yeah.
Place is huge, but I feel like with the show and just all the new canon, it's outdated because it shows the throne room like 5 levels underneath.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Whereas
Okay.
this puts it more, toward the top because they fall out of like the bedroom right
Right.
down to the chamber. So, um,
Yeah, that's interesting.
I was really
I
excited.
I know that I've been playing a lot of Battlefront 2, the new one lately, and I
Mhm.
think there's a Jabba's palace map on there yet.
There
But
is.
I'm like trying to position my kick to extend longer with Star Wars. So I'm just doing eras. So I haven't even touched any of the like Empire era stuff. It's all
Gotcha.
been Clone Wars stuff. So eventually I'll get to it. And I'm
Nice.
curious how they lay it out in there. But anyway, we see Boba sitting with his bantha at a campfire, relaxing and eating before we see a flare go up in the sky off in the distance. Boba takes off in that direction, and we find a lone figure laying in the sand, and he rolls the body over to find out that it's Fennec. And I think, I can't remember if they touched on this in Mandalorian or talked about it, about him finding her out in the middle of the desert or something.
Yeah, so I'm on season 2 of Mando, just rewatching basically because my son likes Grogu. So
Yeah.
Grogu's in that show enough for him to almost basically watch an entire like episode.
Yeah.
Saturday, we watched like 3 episodes of Mando.
Nice.
So this is like semi-fresh, and I'm really happy that I'm randomly rewatching it because the end of the episode, which Fennec gets shot, that's where we get the first like mysterious figure cameo, and we get the boots of Boba showing up.
Right.
But that is before the reveal of Tamira Morrison in season 2, episode 1 of The Mandalorian.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I need to go back and rewatch it.
Yeah,
But I'm all Clone Wars right now.
yeah.
We get a little. I'll get to it eventually.
We get a little bit of Mando theme song in this bit here, which is really nice.
Oh yeah, definitely. So he rolls her over. She's injured in some way. I don't know. I can't remember if they show the injury, but he loads her up. She's unconscious. Slaps her on the back of the bantha and travels to a location full of these half human, half cyborg people that we've seen earlier on in the show. And
the mods,
the mods, and and it's just not for me, man. It is what it is. Like maybe somebody out there likes it. It's too Terminator for me personally. But we see, I hate the people that are here, but I did like this location, and it's set up kind of like a tattoo parlor, right?
Yes.
It's a mod parlor. Boba talks about it.
And that's where I like this representation of this group. And then thinking about it a little bit more, like this is the most forward in the timeline we've seen Tatooine. So perhaps since since Return of the Jedi, maybe these cats showed up from like Coruscant, I feel like they fit so well in like the underworld of Coruscant.
For sure, yeah, definitely, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I'm just I'm splitting hairs really at this point. Yeah. I think they're probably here to stay at least in the rest of the series. But so Boba rolls in with Fennec, slaps her down on the table. The tattoo artist says appointments only, and he says she's dying and slaps down a bag of money. He's like, well, you should have led with that. And then we get a nice little montage of him working on Fennec and kind of outfitting her with these cyborg parts, whatever you want to call them. Is that what you call them? Cyborg parts? Sure.
Yeah, droid parts. And I really like this like quick montage, and it was just exciting. And then also just the idea was like, whoa, Fennec is like part machine, right? She's kind of got like the Vader and the many other characters that take on this like part machine rebuilt nature in Star Wars.
Yeah, it's funny because I was having a lightsaber fight with my oldest son before I came down here.
Naturally.
And we always play whoever gets hit first in like a kill zone is out. And he hit me in the arm at the same time I hit him in the gut. And I was like, I'll just go get a robot arm. You can't survive a gut shot. And then Kirsten was like, well, actually you can survive a gut shot because we just saw it today in Boba Fett. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. So I thought it was pretty funny. But we see some cool little montage with the arm. He's like putting different tools on, I think. It was a cool little montage. And then we finally see Fennec waking up at another campfire and Boba offers her one of the black melons to drink, which is becoming a common stay in every single one of these episodes, I think, and explains that she was dying from a shot to her stomach and he saved her life. Fennec sees the modifications and kind of freaks out. Not a lot, like kind of, what'd you do to me? He's like, oh, yeah, I saved your life. I mean, took you to a mod parlor, which I thought was so cool. It's such a cool name for it, mod parlor.
Yeah, and I like the bit where but was like, you're gonna like cover that up. He's like, and hide all the beautiful like machinery. Like,
yeah, right.
It's so true too in Star Wars, because it's a thing in Star Wars. Like, they show off the parts in Star Wars a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And then Master Assassin in the Mid Rim. What's that? Is that what he calls her?
So when he's like verifying her identity, and it's like, oh, you're Fennec Shand, Master Assassin of the Mid Rim, and I just thought it was interesting that it's noted she's like of the Mid Rim, because it kind of shows her skill level. Because you kind of got to think, like, you have bounty hunters that kind of roam the outer rim, which is a little bit rougher. Like, just think of it like the clientele that she probably served and her targets she probably took down in the mid rim, right? Because then we see Django in episode 2, the movie, he's on Coruscant taking out targets. So like, it's just like, I thought that was cool that they gave her like the title of the mid rim, because it shows like her level of operation.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And I think it's funny you bring up that Django scene, because I think I don't remember the alien race that starts that whole sequence, the like shapeshifter chick, but she wears like almost identical helmet to Fennec, doesn't she? Pretty sure she does. I have to go back and watch it, but I think it's rather similar.
I think it is. Well, no, hers is it's similar, but this part is a cloth piece.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Yep. You're right. Okay. So the top part is what I'm thinking of. So anyway, Boba breaks down what we've seen so far in the show, as Fennec believes Boba Fett is dead, so he's trying to explain where he's been, what happened. He says that he needs her help recovering his fire spray gunship, and she is now in his debt because he saved her life. That is unfortunately probably the last time I'm ever going to call it the fire spray, because I just can't stand. I'm sorry. It's the slave one to me. It will always be the slave one to me.
Well, the tricky thing there is like the ship type is a fire spray.
It's a fire spray, right?
So like it's a fire spray gunship, but it's it's deemed the slave one. Like,
right. Yeah. And I mean, here they obviously Disney-fied it and took the slave one name away, which it's cool. In this sequence, you're right. It fits. He's like, I need you to get my fire spray gunship. He's just telling what kind of ship it is. But
yeah, she's not gonna know what the slave one is. Like, what are you talking about, dude?
Right. Yeah. Right. True. I mean, she might, because she knows who Boba Fett is. So I'm sure that his ship has just as much of a reputation as he does.
That is true.
So we see that Boba Fett is possibly unrecognizable without his armor, which is an interesting kind of take to put on the character. So she asks kind of like, why don't you just go ask Bib Fortuna for it back? And he's like, I don't know. I don't think I'd like the answer. So that's kind of interesting, because the Mandalorian and the Mandalorians in general don't typically take their helmets off. But Boba Fett has been very clear about not following that in any way. So is he recognizable without his helmet on? I feel like it would be.
So just Mando and the children or whatever of the watch, right? Because that's the Mando, like they're more zealots and they don't take their helmet off, whereas like Bo-Katan and like more modern Mandalorians, they do. Boba, not identifying necessarily as a Mandalorian like his whole life. I think I'll just lean on how he was perceived and portrayed in the original trilogy, and that the dude just didn't take his helmet off because he's, Boba Fett. And, I doubt that many people ever saw him with his helmet off, because he was always a man of doing his job. He's always on the job kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think when he said, like, I'm not going to like the answer right from Bib Fortuna, I mean, I could easily see him strolling back in there, even convincing him that like he is Boba Fett. Bib Fortuna is going to be like, well, can you do this for me? And he's like, he doesn't want to get trapped back in the whole like bounty hunter life. And I think that's what he's trying to stay away from.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. And that's a really good point, because later in the episode, we find out that a lot of the people that were under Jabba leadership wise took off when Bib Fortuna took over. So he's
Right.
probably trying to scrap for some sort of muscle. So that's definitely a good point. So Fennec and Boba head to another Overwatch position of the palace, and Fennec releases a small probe droid to attempt to locate all the guards inside. The probe makes its way through the palace while kind of staying out of the sights of all the guards. And Boba releases his bantha to the wild. And I thought it was funny that Fennec was like, well, shouldn't you get your ship back before you do that? He's like, it doesn't matter. I'm either dead or I'm going to get my ship back. So
I'm getting it back.
Yeah, I love that part. So Boba says that he plans to recover his armor and take out the, quote, bloated pig, which he's referring to as Bib Fortuna, which I think I may, because I hate the name Bib Fortuna. I hate saying it. So I think I'm exclusively going to call him the bloated pig from now on.
It's like a baby bib plus like tuna.
Yeah, it's very difficult. It's just not
very bad name.
Yeah, it's not a very good time trying to get that out. But he did, I mean, I can't remember, he wasn't fat in Return of the Jedi, right?
No,
like
he was
fatness
skinny.
came on after he took over the palace and started, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Once he had access to the entire kitchen.
Right. So Fennec asks if he wants to head a Gatra, and I had to look this up because I'd never heard of a Gatra before. And what I found was it's assumedly like a tribe, clan, or I put in crime family because I think that's how they're using it here. Is that how you took it?
I looked it up really quick, and it's like Hindu. The word is
right.
So I don't know if it's like just meaning a family in Hindu, or it's like a crime family in Hindu.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Hindu mob culture is like.
Yeah,
I'm really only
don't
familiar
either.
with American and like European mob, and well, everywhere except like India. I don't know.
Right.
Like, what's the mob scene in India? I do not know.
Yeah, I have no idea either. But I do like how they're mixing different cultures, like wording into this, because we heard daimyo earlier, which was Japanese. Those were the lords in feudal Japan were called daimyo, and now we're getting this head of a Gatra, which is some sort of tribe or clan, is how I took it.
Well, it's interesting though, now that I'm thinking about it, because I was looking up Jabba's palace, and so like Jabba's palace was said to like existed there and was built by monks before anyone settled the planet. Obviously, besides the Tuscans, but these monks, like, they just disconnected from reality, lived in seclusion here in the desert, and like once they got so enlightened, they would do it like once one of the monks was like to the certain level of enlightenment. I don't know how they knew. They surgically removed the dude's brain and put it in a jar on droid legs, and it would just walk around the palace.
What?
So when Jabba took over, he liked that because it was like grotesque and just weird.
Yeah.
So he let them like stay there, and like they would just wander his palace.
Oh wow.
It's like a mutual thing. But also thinking like monks, Hindu, so very interesting that they use like this. I don't know if they were going off of that, and like it was supposed to be like a monk monastery type thing. So
that's interesting. Yeah, that's
I don't
a good point. Yeah, interesting. I do want to, before we go too far here, I do want to talk about, and I feel like this is maybe going to, and we've touched on it a little bit throughout the show, but do you feel like these shows are like need to break out of Tatooine at some point?
This show isn't
right,
but it's tough because like Obi-Wan's coming, we're gonna see Tatooine,
right?
As an IP, we need to break away from Tatooine. Now, I was thinking about this while watching this, and I was like, it's really cool that we are getting so much Tatooine because it's like one of the most popular planets. You know, it's Darth Vader's birthplace, blah blah blah. It's like the holy land in Star Wars. But if they do break out and do other planets, I want them to do it to this level, right? I don't want just like a quick like, oh, we're on this, like what
Galaxy
they do in Mando.
Jumping. Yeah.
Like Mando does that and it's fun, but it would be cool if like, I don't know, there's a series that really honed in on like 2 planets, like say like Dathomir and like another like, you know, Dagobah, like, but really dig into it. So I like that we're getting so much infill on Tatooine, but at the same time, Star Wars needs to break away from Tatooine.
Yeah. I feel like I got to be honest. I feel like this story would have been really cool on Coruscant, like the Rings of Coruscant. But it seems like Disney, at least to this point, is kind of like forgetting about the prequels and maybe everything associated with them, right? Outside of the Django stuff that we get in this series. Like, are there any planets from the prequels? Like, we haven't seen Naboo, we haven't seen Coruscant, we haven't seen. Oh, we did see Mustafar in
Yeah.
Rogue One. So
Yeah,
I just thought it'd be cool, like that. The Rings of Coruscant has always like enticed me to read it more about it because it's just interesting. So, I mean, you did get a lot of that in Clone Wars, so maybe they want to do something else. But with Obi-Wan coming so allegedly soon, right? Within this year, that's going to be another Tatooine story. I don't think that's going anywhere because he's like protecting Luke, so he's not going to be.
Yeah, he's not supposed to leave.
Right. And now maybe he does. Maybe he does. You know, who knows? We'll see, I guess, when we get there. But
yeah, I just don't know how they do it, and I mean, they need to do it.
They do.
But it's tough because I mean, Tatooine's safe, and like a lot goes on there. Like 2 of the original trilogy movies took place there.
Yeah.
It's just a huge, for being like a desert world. It's like
Right.
the most important planet in Star Wars.
It is, but like within the universe, like I think they even say in this, like it's a worthless rock. Like nobody wants it in universe, but it's the most important planet.
Yeah.
In Star Wars, it's very bizarre. But anyway, Fett states that he's tired for working for idiots who are eventually going to get him killed. So he wants to start some sort of crime family, right? So he's kind of showcasing the change that the Tuscans have made on him, which I thought was kind of cool. He's kind of leaving. It's not necessarily maybe what I would have done with the character, but I do like the way they're doing it. Like we're getting kind of bounty hunter stuff with the Mandalorian. So we don't necessarily need it here. So he's kind of leaving the bounty hunting behind, and I'm okay with it, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then the probe droid eventually returns back to him and reveals the location of all the different guards in the place, and it's like an excessive amount. So Fennec and Fett plan to make a quiet entry as they sneak into a sewer grate, I guess is what it is, in the back of the palace.
I would like to say, is this like explaining how all the holograms for like when they plan in Star Wars come from? Because it's like you never really think about it. It's like, how did they get all these like
hologramic
images of things? Obviously there's sensors and stuff, but this is like I thought it was cool that they showed off how that could be done. And then
I definitely
I was like, is she watching this on like a device we've never seen?
Right.
But then I was like, oh, it flies back and then it projects it kind of just like a droid would, like so I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I definitely liked it. It felt like, I don't know if you've ever seen Prometheus.
Yeah.
The Alien prequel. It felt like that. Those balls that they throw up to map the whole thing. So I liked it. I thought it was cool. So we see them sneak through the sewer grate, and we get a shot of the palace's kitchen full of droids preparing meals for the bloated pig. And the droids are alerted by a noise, and one goes off to investigate, thinking it's a rat. And he's like very skittish. He's like, I don't think it's a rat.
Yeah.
And Fennec takes that droid out, and then the droid who's doing the chopping, I loved this part. Some people might hate it, but I thought it was hilarious. He goes full General Grievous with the arms swinging the knives around. I loved it. I think that at least with people that I know, General Grievous is like one of the most hated characters from the prequels. I don't get it. He's
like one of my favorite characters.
He's one of my favorite characters. Yeah. I think it's just people that hate the prequels and they're grabbing onto what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people that hated that everybody had a lightsaber. Like, well, that's kind of the time that we're in.
Yeah.
Everybody did. But then they're like, oh, of course, Grievous has to have 4 lightsabers. Like, dude, you're just grasping at straws as far as I'm concerned. But I thought it was a cool callback that this droid kind of does the same movements.
Yep.
So Fennec eventually sneaks up behind this thing, and the thing doesn't put up much of a fight besides looking threatening, and she just cuts his throat. So then we get another droid, and this one's like, I don't know what kind of droid this is. I don't think I've ever seen this in Star Wars. It's almost like a pet droid. Is there such a thing?
I've seen this droid before. I think they're most commonly like kind of like house servants, almost like in Harry Potter, like I forget are they elves or whatever Dobby is, but They've been in Star Wars before. I can't recall exactly where they are, but they do exist. But I didn't. I don't know. It might have been Jabba's palace for all I know.
Yeah, he kind of looks familiar to something that from Jabba's palace, and I just can't place it. That like little rat thing that sits on his shoulder and laughs, or whatever it is. You know,
Well, that's different. That's like a living thing.
yeah, that's a living thing, but I'm saying he kind of looks like that.
Yeah,
The
right.
droid. So anyway, the droid sees him and takes off through the palace, trying to alert somebody, and they give chase. And Fennec eventually heads him off, and Boba grabs him by the throat and attempts to interrogate him. And the dude, I love this because the little dude's so stressed out that he just turns himself off.
Yeah, and I just like that Boba's just like, "Do you know who I am?"
Yeah,
Boba Fett.
I'm
Like, it's
Boba
a
Fett.
droid, dude. Like,
Yeah, he don't
probably
know.
not. No. Like, why are we interrogating the droid right now?
Right.
And even like Fennec was like, "Are we done? Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
are we doing?"
What
And
are we
that was a
doing?
lot of noise in the kitchen, which I think is why the Gamorreans here in like a second come running in. I think they were alerted with all that
Alerted to
ruckus.
all the ruckus. Yeah, I just loved that he just turns himself off.
Yeah, it's
That
like,
was so hilarious. He's like, I want no part of this. So anyway, Fennec and Boba eventually reach the hangar, and we get our first shot of the slave one. Gamorrean guards then show up, as Nick just said, and attack the couple. The alarm sets off in the palace, and the pair is ambushed by quite a few guards. And Boba heads to the ship and attempts to get it flying. Now, I loved this sequence just right there because we finally saw the ship, right?
yeah.
And it's something that I've wanted from the show for. Like, I'm a little shocked it took them 4 episodes to get to the ship. You know,
Yeah, it's well worth it. It's
true.
It's so great.
It's
And
true. It's not like
I love that
good.
ship even more since Mando, and they showed how the inside works, and like,
Yeah,
that ship is just so exciting. I think
yeah,
so cool.
yeah. Absolutely love it. So, Fennec begins taking out the overwhelming amount of guards that are ambushing him. The slave one begins to lift slowly off and blowing some of the guards back. Fennec jumps onto the entrance ramp and begins fighting. And the gate is stopping them from getting out. And I like this sequence because it almost kind of looks like Boba doesn't know what he's doing, or kind of maybe forgot a little bit how to fly, because he's
Yeah,
like hitting the walls and stuff. But I think it's just a very tight area
it's
for
dark and it's
that ship.
tight.
It's dark.
Yeah,
And eventually Fennec sees the wait for the door, and she kind of fights off the guy that's fighting with him, shoots the weight on the door, and the door opens.
did she use her
And
scope on the weight to shoot
no,
it?
I don't
Okay.
think so, because it was like a frantic, it was a frantic shot at just one shot, no
She just
scope.
makes me think of like Halo days, like just no scoping in Halo, because that was just such a big thing. I
Yep.
remember amongst my friends, and she's just no scoping everybody.
It shows that, and I think I have not watched the Bad Batch yet. She's in the Bad Batch, right?
Yep.
So we get a little bit of backstory on her. So I'm excited to get to that because I'm getting more and more interested in this character the more I see her.
Yeah, and I'm. This is, I mean, this is Fennec at a different point in her life, and Bad Batch is a much younger Fennec, which is cool too. So it's a lot of good character development for her.
Yeah, definitely. I need to go watch that. I'm trying to get through the Clone Wars first, and then get to it.
Yeah. I mean, you have to go right from season 7 to Bad Batch.
Yeah. So anyway, they eventually get the door open, like I said, and they take off. And Fennec meets Boba in the cockpit, and Boba states that her debt is paid because he helped her get the ship back, or helped him get the ship back, and asks her where she would like to be dropped off. She asks, where is he going? And he says, I've got a few scores to settle. And Fennec states she'll go along with the ride. So this is kind of them partnering together for the rest of what we've seen them so far, right?
Yeah, and I think it's also just like a cool nod too, because I can always recall like in my youth, like, when you just decide to like hang out with someone and you're like, you could have parted ways, but you're like, you know what? I'm not doing anything today. Like, let's just see where this goes.
Right. Yeah.
And she, like him, I mean, and he says it in a little later, I forget what scene, but like they're both starting anew. Like, she's dead, like basically, like she was left for dead and done and out and she's technically rebuilt, I would be a little bit like, well, I don't really got much else going on. I'm cool with hanging out with Boba Fett and his ship. Like, this dude's slowly getting sweeter by the day.
Right. Yeah. Right. Now he's got this badass ship. I think I'm going to stick along for the ride. So, we also get, she asks him like, how's the ship flying? He's like, it's a little rusty. She's like, well, there's good mechanics in Mos Eisley. And he's like, I'll do my own mechanic work because there's a benefit to people thinking that you're dead, which I thought was a cool touch. But the next scene, I do want to point out before we get too far into it here, the CGI on this ship was amazing to me.
So yeah, I was trying to think. It's all about the lighting. And have you watched the making of the Mandalorian on Disney Plus?
I don't think so. No. Mm-mm.
It's called like Showcase. I forget what it's called, but go find it. And like the first season it's about the first season of Mando, and it's like 8 episodes long, and it touched on a different topic. And then they just did like one episode for season 2 because they already talked about a lot of things. But the technology they use and like the surround stage it's the coolest thing. And it lets them play with the idea of like having a stage that is also a simulated VR.
Right.
So it's like a physical location VR, and that's how they're able to, because the walls around it are all digital screens. So when the sun is on the screen, you're getting real lighting off of
interesting
their gear and stuff. So if you watch like Mando, like there's true environmental lighting, and like they have all the engineers that like modify it like dynamically as they're shooting. It's just the coolest thing.
That's crazy.
So I'm wondering if they're using these VR, like it's a VR environment where they place the ship in it, and they're just able to do so much realistic things as far as, because I was looking at the cockpit, like you see the sun reflecting off of it. And I'm like, yeah, this is being done in some sort of like digital reality space. And that's why it looks so good.
Yeah, it almost I was curious because I during the first time we see the ship kind of flying away, the first 2 scenes that we see it just flying over the desert.
Right.
Because I know that the original trilogy used like models for the ships.
Yep.
And I was like, man, this almost looks like that. I wonder if they went back to that instead of doing CGI, because it's really good. So if it's CGI, I mean, obviously we've come a long way since the prequels, CGI wise. So
the movement's so like fluid and crisp. It's just really good. I think VR or just like a digital environment. Like it's just it's
that
top
Disney
notch.
money. Yeah, that Disney money they got. So the next scene that we see, and they called them. Did they call them the Nikto bikers at all during the rest of the show?
No,
because I know they called them something at the beginning, and you called it out. I can't remember what it was though, but it wasn't that.
Maybe this is what he called them to the Pike, because the Pike called them something else, and then he replied using a different name. This might be that name. That's what he calls them.
And this is a subtitle thing. It's not said in the episode at all. It says Nikto biker screaming or something like that. Biker gang screaming. But anyway, we see the bikers riding through the desert, and I love this shot because it reminded me of I think season 7 of Game of Thrones, where the dragons kind of coming in real low, dude. It reminded me of that so much. So we see the Slave One in the distance, just getting slowly closer, and then he just lights them all up and decimates them. So it really was cool because that's like one of my favorite visual scenes from Game of Thrones is when they look and the dragon's like flying over the water, like during that one.
It's a dragon.
It's called. Yeah,
Star Wars dragon. Like, and I was just like, dude, like Tatooine is such like a piece of crap place. Like that makes all the difference. Like right now you got like 2 bounty hunters rolling around in like a fire spray gunship, just like wasting people.
Yep. So he completely obliterates the entire biker gang.
So
and
good.
The next scene we see him approaching the Sarlacc pit, and Fennec tries to tell him that if his gear is in there, it's dissolved by now. And the ship is positioned in an attempt to, and this was my one problem with the episode, is this like defies all physics, the way he's got this ship like it's facing the ground, like literally with the rockets, the propellant behind it, which I thought was odd. But
yeah, I think that's some Star Wars technology. It's just like their anti-gravity, like repulsor lift stuff.
Right.
I don't, and like I was watching that too because like when he like backs up to like take off, the engines like flare a little bit. I'm wondering if like it's some sort of intake and it like draws it up. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
was trying to
point.
justify it too. I was like, this doesn't make a lot of like our universe physics sense, but
right. But honestly, if you're watching Star Wars and doing that, you're gonna have a bad time because none of this
Yeah.
makes sense as far as we
No.
know the universe. Like
Yeah.
every planet has oxygen that you can breathe. There's so it wasn't that big of a thing. I just thought it was kind of odd. So anyway, he positions literally right over top the cockpit, right over top of the Sarlacc pit, and he's using like the light on the outside of the ship, attempting to see his gear down in the Sarlacc pit. And you know what's probably going to come, but the Sarlacc reaches its arms up, I guess. What do you call those? Tentacles?
Tentacles.
And grabs the ship and starts to pull it towards the sand. And there's also a head that's like trying to hit the cockpit open. And Fett is struggling to break the ship loose. And Fennec unbuckles herself and hops over and drops a seismic charge, which just perfectly drops in the sand and lands right in the Sarlacc's mouth. But I have no complaints of it because this noise, dude. I love the noise from those seismic charges. I have always loved them. So
there are things about episode 2 that are like atrocious, and then there are the other things that absolutely redeem it. And I don't care. And like seismic charges are definitely on the list of like redeeming qualities for that movie.
Yes, definitely, 100%. Yeah, I love the prequel movies. Don't get me wrong. I'm like on episode 1. Loved it as a kid because it was more Star Wars that I hadn't gotten in years. And 2, I loved as a kid. Less so now with like the love stuff in it. Like I felt like they could have been like a couple of scenes maybe. I would have liked to see more Obi-Wan and Anakin versus Anakin and Padme personally, but
yeah,
is what it is. So anyway, although Fennec saves the ship with her seismic release, Fett asks her to not touch the controls next time.
Don't touch my buttons.
Right. And I do want to, because you put it in here too, and I was going to put it in here, but it is a little odd that like he had to know that he crawled out of the Sarlacc pit with his gear on.
He honestly might not remember like how like he immediately passed out. Right. And it was a rough experience. So I guess, having gone through what he's gone through, the best he can do is like, dude, it's gotta be there, like in there. Because I didn't have it when I got out. But yeah, it is a little bit like they might explain it, maybe. I don't know, but it definitely is interesting. I don't know if they just had to find a way to like get the slave one to get attacked by the Sarlacc,
just to take out the Sarlacc pit. That's how I took it. He's just going back to settle his score with the Sarlacc pit. So, so Boba in the next scene is seen using a rope to climb out of the Sarlacc pit, stating that his armor is not inside the pit. The duo is then seen around another campfire while Boba discusses his reason for leaving the bounty hunter profession. Boba states that he wants to start a house. He will need muscle and brains. Fennec states that she will gladly work with him as a contractor, but she's not going to be like his second in command or anything. And I kind of like the quote where he's like, I can't remember the exact quote, but he basically claims that you can't have a house without having a tribe, or
everyone
have
needs
to have
a
like
tribe.
a backing. Yeah. And she does mention that he needs to back to tank because this is we're still in the flashback time, so it's very rough looking in these early moments.
And he just crawled back out of the Sarlacc pit, like
right.
It's disgusting. Like, when are you who cleans your robes? Like, do they just like dry out? I don't know.
Yeah, it was probably like some Tuscan
Antis
servant that did it.
Yeah.
And they're all dead now. So
yeah.
So then we kind of get like a quick little montage of Fennec and Boba really taking back the throne. I absolutely loved it. We saw it before. It may even be the same scene we saw before, for all I know, in the kind of teaser for this.
it was cut up, but like, getting Bib Fortuna being like Boba and then getting shot, but like
Yeah.
him sitting on the throne and like her then sitting on the arm and just like the music,
She
like it was
grabs
just
the drink,
it
and walks over and sits down. Yeah.
it's like the show is starting, right? Like that
Right.
was all just a prelude, like
Yeah.
before the
Yep.
title sequence, and then we re-got the title sequence.
Yeah.
So it's almost like we're here, like we've arrived.
Yeah. I
It,
don't
it
think we're getting any more flashbacks for the rest of the show. If I were
right,
to guess, right? Because we're caught
right,
up. We know everything we need to know. But that makes me hopeful because I still think that little Tusken Ninja is out there somewhere because they didn't show his body. He's
right.
obviously out there. Obviously, there was more to the story of telling that story besides just him. But I don't know. We'll see. I hope he comes back because I would love to see him as Boba's muscle. So we head back to current times and into the sanctuary where we see a group of. I always forget this alien race. What were they? What is Bosk?
Oh, Bosk is a Trandoshan.
Trandoshan. Yeah. So we see a group of Trandoshans gambling, and Black Chrysanthemum. Is that how you say it? Chrysanthemum.
Chrysanthemum, yeah.
Yeah, he's just sitting in the corner, being a grump, having a drink, being overly annoyed by the loud gamblers, and before finally having enough and going over and pummeling the entire crew as Boba watches. I love this because it just shows what kind of a grump he is. You know, he's like the total opposite of Chewbacca, right?
Right.
He's like the grumpy dude in the back of the corner that's mad at the young kids who are being loud.
Oh, but wait, note that like we get the little bit where he wakes up from the back to tank and he's fully healed.
Yeah. I did miss that, didn't I? I think I had that in here. Yeah. So he wakes up from the back to tank, and the droid calls him Master Fett and says, "You're officially all healed up." And we learn that the mayor's assistant from the episode with the horrendous chase is cooperating with the clan, but there's still no word on the mayor's location. So yes, I apologize. I did skip over that part.
No, yeah, because it was all blended in there. It was all pretty quick on the take back. But I did want to note that they did a good job de-aging him to like I feel now better about the like time gap with like episode 6 Boba and the series Boba.
Yeah.
He looks much younger, fully healed. They did effort there to make it look like he's more
Yeah. And he's like,
appropriately aged.
yeah. And he's like crystal clean too. Like he's
Yeah.
gotten like no body hair,
Yeah.
perfectly tanned. It's like, what a man, right? What a man. So then, we head into the gambling situation there. And the owner stops the Wookiee's rampage as she kind of calms him down by talking about his successful past. And I like this because it gives us a little bit of background of him. He was like a gladiator fighting in pits and stuff. And she's trying to slowly talk him down as he's got one of these Trandoshans by the neck holding him up. And she claims that he's racked up quite a tab at the bar. And if he stops the violence, she will wipe the tab. And the Wookiee proceeds to rip off the arm of the gambler.
Just one.
He was holding, just one, throws him down, and then pays his bar tab immediately. And I love that sequence. Like, no, I think I'll pay my own tab and still beat the crap out of this dude.
Yeah.
It was great.
I don't need your charity.
Yeah, because it almost looks like it's working on him. Like he's thinking, she's trying to calm him down. And then he just, at the end, he's like, nah, I'll pay the tab.
Wookiees do what Wookiees are going to do.
Right. So the Wookiee leaves the bar and is approached by Fett with a job offer. And I kind of knew this was coming. We talked about it on episodes before. I think in the comics, he works with Boba Fett in some capacity. So I'm happy about this for sure because I want to see more of him in his electric brass knuckles.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess Chrysanthemum was, he's not a bounty hunter, and he was just like a gladiator. Basically, his whole life is servitude to the Hutts or his owners. So I guess he was just like lost, angry, down on his luck kind of thing. That's like what this scene's kind of showing because he's just like causing trouble and just doesn't really have any purpose, it seems like.
Right.
And that's what they're trying to kind of get out there.
Yeah, I would have liked, because the Wookiees are the one that have the like life debt thing, right? Because that's why Chewbacca is so tied to Han Solo, because he owes him a life debt because Han saved his life. I would have liked to see Boba maybe save this dude's life in some capacity. Not like, I mean, it would have had to been.
He freed him.
Yeah, he did free him, but I don't know if it's worthy of a life debt per se.
Yeah.
But I guess Wookiees can get paid for their service also, so maybe that's the
can.
route we're going here. So we cut to the meeting that we have seen in the trailers, and it has all of Jabba's captains kind of sitting around the table and meeting with the new rulers, who are Fennec and Boba. Fennec states that they all left the family when Fortuna, what is it? The oily pig? What is he called? Bloated pig. The bloated pig.
Yeah,
I'm calling him that exclusively from now. If I write another episode, I'm not typing Fortuna. It's just the bloated pig from now on. And he's dead, so who cares?
He's gone.
So they all left when he took over the leadership position, because she states that he doesn't really deserve it. He didn't deserve to have that spot. So the first time that I watched this episode, I got really, really excited, because I believed the most vocal alien at the table was actually a Feline, the purple cloak guy, the green purple cloak guy. Because his garb is very reminiscent of what we saw the Feline in the Clone Wars, as well as Prince Shizor from Shadows of the Empire. So I got really excited when I saw this dude. But I think it turns out that it's not a Feline, unfortunately. It's a Klatooinian. Have you ever heard of this race?
This is the ones that they mentioned when they were kind of explaining who owned what part of the city. So I guess we're finally getting to see what those exactly are. I don't really.
So I looked them up, and it's certainly the race of alien that is sitting at that table. I was excited. I'm just patiently waiting for them to start implementing some Shadows of the Empire stuff in here, and I thought this would have been at least a little way to sneak something in with the Feline. Because I don't think that we've seen Feline in live action at all. We did see him in the Clone Wars. Off the top of my head, I can't remember ever seeing a Feline in any of the movies. So thought it would have been cool. He's definitely dressed like a Feline, but he's not. So Fennec attempts to bring the captains back into the family under the rule of Fett. Fett explains his proposal to the table, as well as his concern over the Pikes. The group begin to state that they make a great deal of money over the spice business that the Pikes are providing. The Klatooinian is the most vocal about opposing Fett. Fett only requests that the group stay neutral in his fight against the Pikes, which I thought was smart.
Yeah,
he's like, here, you don't have to be on my side, but at least don't be on their side, right?
It's a sweet deal. It's like, sure, I'm not going to make you fight for me. Just don't do anything.
Yeah. I mean, it's smart, because you don't want to force people to fight for you, because it's going to end badly, right?
Yeah.
They're going to double cross you at some point. And especially these guys are they almost seem like they're on the Pike side with all the spice talk that they're talking about.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a really smart move to just be like, here, just stay neutral. And they eventually all agree to it.
Because then they don't have to pick a side. Because if they pick a side, then they're stuck with that winner or loser. This way, they're like, I think we win no matter what. So
yeah, definitely. So Fennec and Fett are seen discussing the coming battle between the Pikes as the group kind of leaves and walks off into the desert. And Fennec asks how much treasure Boba has in storage, to which he responds, I need muscle, not credits. And Fennec states,
I got plenty. Well, I ain't broke.
Yeah. And Fennec states, credits buy muscle if you know where to look. So that's our little tease for the next episode. Boba does mention that he knows
Mando theme song,
right? And he does mention to Fennec that, like, here, they know that if the Pikes take over, they're going to take everything over. So they know that eventually they're probably going to come on Boba's side. So I like where we're at right now in the show, man. I got to be honest. I like what they've set up. I think what do we got? 3 episodes left? Is it 7? Yeah. So we got 3
5,
episodes.
6, and 7.
which I think are probably exclusively going to take place in this time that we're in right now.
Present
I wouldn't
day.
see it. Yeah, I wouldn't see a need to do any kind of other flashbacks, right?
Yeah, and I mean, with the Mando theme song, it's almost screaming that their Mando's gonna show up, and that
Yeah,
if that does, that puts us, post Mando, right? And it really kind
right,
of frames at least portion of this show as like a Mando and a half
right.
season.
Yeah,
So if he shows up, that'll be interesting. Um, and that'll give us a little bit of if he shows up, I guess that tells us what he's kind of doing post, the end of season 2. Because it was either
yeah,
like I was guessing he would go like help Bo-Katan, but
right.
he doesn't have a ship, right? And it's just interesting, like because that's season 2 of Mando is like, well, what's Mando gonna do now? He doesn't have a
Yeah,
ship. Grogu's
Grogu's
gone.
gone. Yeah,
Bo-Katan gave him an offer to come with her and her crew. Boba's still out there, so it'll be interesting how they frame Mando. And if Mando did go with Bo-Katan, are they going to show up too? Like, but I just don't see
yeah,
Bo-Katan helping Boba because they didn't get along at all in
right,
season
right.
2.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good point. The only flashback that I could see possibly happening is like a quick montage, like the throne room, about him getting his gear back, because that's not been touched on in this show specifically. We know how he got his gear back from the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So just to bring the show kind of full circle and stand on its own, maybe we'll get something like that. But what do you think is going on with this mayor? Like, is he fully on the Pike side, or is he in hiding, or?
I think he's in hiding, being protected by the Pikes. Like maybe they're in Mos Eisley because that's kind of where the Pikes are, headquartered now. But yeah, the Pikes are definitely this. I'm trying to think. They're the out of towners in the mob story,
Right.
right? They're
Yeah.
the people that are gonna undo the way of life that everyone's used to. So they're definitely positioned to be everyone's enemy, and just like Boba said, they're just not good for business overall on the
Right.
planet.
Definitely.
And
And they're the go ahead.
I was gonna say in the mayor, I mean, we really haven't seen much of him in like his one scene. Like he was just kind of like a sleazeball anyway. So
Right.
I think he's just like a throwaway character, I would
Yeah, it could
imagine,
be.
unless there's some reveal that he's like there's more to him. But the Pikes are a pretty big organization and they have their own, they're basically like the Huts. So yeah, the mayor's he's just a side effect of Bib Fortuna's rule.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I feel like every time I watch one of these episodes, I kind of almost totally forget the mayor is even a character until he's brought up again.
Right.
So I just feel like there's more to him. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on. It
He's
seems
a
like they're
Jedi.
yeah it could be, yeah, who knows, right? But the Pikes are the ones that own the spice mines, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which has a great deal of Wookiees working as slaves for them, correct?
Yep.
So I think that's a good little setup for the other Wookiee in this show to be fighting them and maybe having a grudge against them. But yeah, man, I'm happy with where we're at, to be honest with you. Last week's episode is definitely my least favorite out of all of them. And I think even Jordan was like, yeah, it's kind of falling on his face. I wouldn't go that far. They had one bad episode so far, one bad scene, really.
Yeah.
And this week's episode really brought it back for me, and I like where we're at. I like that we're probably done with the flashbacks. I like that we're gonna see everything that we've set up so far kind of pan out.
Getting the ship back and like that whole sequence is like that's just like the topper right there. It's all worth it for that. Like he just gunned down the biker gang
right
into Slave One. Just like you said, that shot of it flying so low, it's so good. And then you get like the like almost over the shoulder shot of from behind it, just like also spraying them. They just took so much care to make that as epic as it needed to be.
Yeah, definitely. It was cool because we see him beat the crap out of him at Tashi Station, right? But then they kind of get payback, and he's a lone dude. He's probably not. Does he even make an attempt to go after them outside of? He doesn't. It's just this scene here. So it's cool to see that like he was riding a band at the beginning of the episode, and now he's got his ship back, and he's just going to decimate these stupid bikers because they've kind of been a thorn in his side since he got out of the Sarlacc pit. So
because before he was kind of just he was of the tribe. He didn't really had much ambition to leave, right? And he was just like collecting their tolls, and like that was I kind of feel like what he was looking to do. And then they all got wiped out, so he kind of didn't have like a purpose anymore. So he's like, well, I need my ship because everyone's gonna die. And I need my armor back. Like, I guess his comfort zone just got like wiped out again, and he's starting over again.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think he's always been the lone dude, right? And he finally kind of found his place with the Tuskens. Unfortunately, I think honestly, if the Tuskens didn't get massacred, he'd stay with them permanently. Right. To be honest, so I think that gave him the little seed of like, hey, I would like to maybe have like a tribe to surround me and not be the lone guy traveling the galaxy anymore.
It's just like Luke's story.
Right. Yeah, right.
He wouldn't have left Tatooine if Owen and Beru didn't get burned alive.
Every good Star Wars story starts with a vicious murder, right?
Yep.
So I like what they've done with the character. I was complaining a little bit at the beginning of that we were getting away from him being a bounty hunter, but I get it now. It's kind of coming around full circle. I'm sure we're going to get more of the stuff with the Mandalorian as far as bounty hunting and the guild and all that stuff goes. I thought we were going to see some of that in here, but Boba's kind of a changed man. He's moving on with his life, which is cool. I mean,
yeah, and it also fixates him in the story and like the universe as, he now has domain over Tatooine and the crime stuff there. So it's like, if you need Boba, you know where to find him, but he's also not out there roaming around doing stuff. So I think from a storytelling perspective, it also kind of like it settles up Tatooine's current state. It'll settle up Boba's current state, and maybe they'll be less likely just to like use him nonstop for stuff, which I think is a good thing. Scarcity at this point is something I think they need to exercise a little bit,
especially with this character, because that's the popularity of Boba's, because we didn't see a whole heck of a lot of them in the original trilogy. He was kind of the mysterious bounty hunter, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I was always concerned that if we did get more of them and a lot more of them, that it was going to somewhat ruin the character and the legacy of the character. But at least right now, I don't feel like they're doing that. I feel like they're giving him perfect justice.
Yeah, and I would love to see, like in the future, like there'd be a story, another show, another movie, and they're on Tatooine, and who shows up? Boba Fett. Why? Because he's the daimyo of Tatooine. So and that's a good use for the character.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that we are Tatooine heavy here lately, but I think that was like people's complaints, or at least some of the complaints with the sequel trilogy with like Jakku, which is like like it's just another Tatooine. Why didn't you just use Tatooine? So now they heard that, and now they're like, well, let's just do everything on Tatooine.
Yeah, it's true.
And I can't remember. I really need to go back and watch Mandalorian. Is he in Tatooine at all? He is, right?
Yeah, because the whole Fennec thing takes place there.
Oh, right. Yeah,
he stops back there, I think, 2 or 3 times. Because he just stopped back there for something in season 2 early on. So that's that, but like that's the way that whole series is set up. Like it's always a new planet, always a new thing. So Tatooine's used in there. It had
its place, but
never mind. Yeah, there's the whole Fennec episode where he's trying to track down another Mandalorian, or I forget why he's there. But then he's trying to track down another Mandalorian. That's how he runs into what's his face that has Boba's armor.
Yeah.
So the season opener for season 2 is an entire Tatooine. That's where we get the crate dragon and more Tusken stuff. So
Yeah,
It's
we'll
getting
be.
its use. I mean,
Yeah,
after
definitely.
Obi-Wan, I think they need to
Yeah.
definitely pivot away.
Right, for sure, because there's so many other planets that they could do. And now, granted, Tatooine's probably the easiest planet to do in Star Wars, right? Because it's like Coruscant would be difficult probably to do in a series, depending, I guess. Because if you're
Depending.
doing it like the rings, it's not going to be that difficult. But
Yeah. There's
yeah,
that. And I mean, there is something comfortable about Tatooine. Like
yeah,
it's just true. Because I think about it too, like I keep going back to Dathomir, and I feel like just it's like I guess there's only so much to do sometimes, but I don't know. You can always add new cities, new towns, more stuff. Like it would be easy for them to branch out because after playing Jedi Fallen Order, I mean, there's plenty of stuff.
I think that we will probably get that. What is because there's like a Sith show coming out, the Acolyte. Is that?
Yeah.
I
Yep.
think we might get some Dathomir stuff in there, or at least that would be the right place to do it. I think.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I just finished up the Night Sisters arc on I think it was season 3 of the Clone Wars, season 4 of the Clone Wars. I can't remember where I'm
Nice.
at, but yeah, definitely an interesting spot to look at. But yeah, I mean, I think, man, by the end of Obi-Wan, assuming he's going to stay there the whole time. Now he could theoretically could leave. He could
Yeah.
leave because they're at least hinting that him and Vader are going to fight, and we would assume they're not going to fight on Tatooine because that would be dangerously close to Luke, right?
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, so is it like it'll be interesting how they tie Vader into the Obi-Wan series. Like, does Vader seek out Obi-Wan? Do they just run into each other somewhere else? Does Obi-Wan go to Mustafar? Like, what is
Right.
going? Like, how are these two are gonna like? It's a pretty big deal to say that these two are going to interact before Episode 4.
Right.
So it's gonna be interesting what they decide to do. Maybe they never meet at all, and really they're kind of telling like two stories, and they get close at
Yeah.
points, right? And they never fully meet again.
Yeah. I mean, it could be, but it does seem like they are hinting that they're going to quote have another swing at each other. So I
True.
think they are going to meet up, but I think it would be very damaging if it took place on Tatooine. So I feel like it's got to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
off of Tatooine because Tatooine's supposed to be the hiding place for Luke. It's supposed to be off the beaten path, desert where they're going to hide this dude. They can't have Vader on Tatooine.
Yoda's
And
like,
then,
you had one job.
right. Yeah. One job. Right.
And
Yeah,
you attracted the one
the
person
one dude that we're trying to hide this kid from. I'm excited for Obi-Wan, man. I wish they would give us because it's done filming, correct?
I believe
Like, I
so.
need like a release date or a trailer or a teaser or something because that's really the show. Like, here, I'll take as much Mandalorian and Boba Fett as I can get because I always think that it's fun to venture away from the Jedi Sith stories in Star Wars because there's so many different stories to tell within the universe. But I also really want to see Obi-Wan again, So kind of going back against my belief on that, but it would be, I can't wait. Can't wait.
So Obi-Wan on IMBD, Hayden Christian, Ewan McGregor, Joel Edgerton, who is Owen Lars, he's in it.
Right.
Kumail Nanjiani, he's in Silicon Valley. If you've ever seen that,
Oh yeah.
he's like the first person listed, which is interesting on the top cast. I don't know if that's
Really?
just because he's like super popular of an actor, so he gets listed first, or he doesn't have a role though.
Yeah, we did talk about this last week where it was, and I'm not 100% sure because when I looked it up on Google, it showed Han's actor from Fast and the Furious was on the docket
Oh
as
right.
the fifth brother, Sung Kang or something like that. Sung Kang, I think his name is. He's on at least Google as the fifth brother. So that's interesting because like we talked about it on here before. I think the Inquisitors is the coolest thing to come out of the Disney era of Star Wars. So I would love to see them live action. It makes perfect sense for them to show up at some capacity. You had mentioned that, I don't know if you said there was a rumor that the Grand Inquisitor was going to make a live action appearance at some point.
Yeah, they were trying to peg, I forget which actor, as the Grand Inquisitor, but like he's dead.
Well, yeah, but not
in this time
during
though.
this time. Yeah,
Yeah,
he'd be alive. So this would be the perfect time for him to show. I think it makes more sense for the Grand Inquisitor to show up here than the fifth brother.
Yeah, and that was all focusing on back when Ahsoka was first announced and stuff. So they're thinking somehow they're going to put the Grand, because there's a Rebels thing. But that does make sense that this would be like a better place for him.
Yeah,
Also,
because Ahsoka's taking place after Rebels, right? So the Grand
yes,
Inquisitor is like long dead because he dies
yep,
in what, season 1, I think.
yeah, season 1. Ice Cube's son from Straight Outta Compton is in Obi-Wan. I did not know that.
Yeah, with a question mark under his role. So yeah, dude, I can't wait. I gotta be honest with you. This might be my most like Boba Fett was my most anticipated show, but this is slowly taking its place because I've just rewatched the prequels recently, and I just love Revenge of the Sith, dude. Everything in it. Like people hate it. It is what it is, you know. But I don't know how you could hate that movie because it's fantastic.
I mean, it's top 3. I mean,
Yeah.
like it's a lot of people's number 1. I mean, it's close to being my number 1, like arguably, just because like it's huge.
Yeah, it's huge, and I think it is supplemented well with Clone Wars because I don't believe that just the movies by itself kind of drives home the closeness of Anakin and Obi-Wan. By the time you get to that Mustafar scene, it's a lot more heart-wrenching, that entire sequence, if you watch Clone Wars and saw everything that happened there.
Yep.
Whereas we spent a lot of time in Attack of the Clones with Padme. So I would have liked to, I would have probably ditched the time jump between episode 1 and episode 2 and just kept Anakin maybe a little bit younger and saw them, not being rivals right out the gate, essentially, because that's you see him as a kid and then you see him as rivals almost immediately in Attack of the Clones. So
true.
Yeah.
Very true.
We're getting way off of Boba Fett, but
Star Wars
happens. Man. I got shut down for my 2 Star Wars episode ideas on here, so I'm trying to get it all out in this book of Boba Fett.
What was the second one?
The first one was ranking the Star Wars movies, and then
I thought we were still doing that.
I thought I got shot down, and then the second one was rewriting the sequel trilogy for Jordan, who doesn't like the sequel trilogy. Do you like the sequel trilogy?
I do, though they're not like something I watch.
Yeah, that's
like
fair.
Better stuff to watch. There's better stuff to watch. I don't have like as many problems with them, even though there are a lot of problems with them. I have all like the base problems with them, but I accept them. Like, I always go back to the Lando thing. Like, I don't like it. I don't agree with it, but I accept.
Right. And yeah, I got to be honest. That's a good point because I don't know that I have gone back and watched that trilogy in any capacity, to be honest with you. I know I saw all of them multiple times in the theater. I don't know that I've watched them outside of that since. Now I'm probably going to because I'm kind of going through all the movies here.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen them all in the theater, and then obviously I saw them all on, Disney Plus or, when they released afterwards. I think they need more as they tie Mandalorian themes and all these other show themes, and like they build up to and they kind of back explain some of that stuff, they'll get better with time.
Yeah, I think so too, because there is a lot that doesn't necessarily make sense in that sequel trilogy.
Yeah. And like I know the characters is like the big thing that people have an issue with. I don't really have an issue with like the character portrayals.
Yeah,
I mostly have an issue with just like its general placement. Like it was just like too much new stuff that they didn't need. Like I don't like the fact that the capital of the New Republic is the Hansian system. Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
is
yeah.
that? Like, why?
So yeah, and I'll tell you why. Because I just read an article on this like a couple days ago. The original plan was to destroy Coruscant in that sequel
Ooh.
trilogy, and they thought that it was going to be too much of a shock to
Right.
destroy that. So they moved the capital city to there so they could destroy it. Or the capital planet, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't like the First Order stuff. I would have just kept them the Empire, like that's the remnants of the Empire, which it essentially is, So
It's all logistical stuff around like the universe.
right,
It's like you got a planet Death Star that can shoot like nail 5 planets at once.
yeah,
The whole like jumping around. Star Wars is very analog
right,
to its own detriment, but also like that's just the way it is. And like those movies just they took a little bit too much liberty with the established like physics of of Star
yeah,
Wars.
yeah.
That's the issues I take with it. Less so
That's
much
interesting that
about the
people
story.
that people have problem with the characters because I don't. My only problem with the characters, I feel like they focused on the wrong one. I would have liked Finn to get far more time than
Mhm.
probably Rey would have gotten. Because
Right.
I just think the idea of a turncoat is so cool in Star Wars.
Yeah.
That idea was so cool, and then that trilogy just got screwed up because of the directors and the way
Yep.
that went. That's
Yeah.
100% what happened. If J.J.
JJ had a
Abrams did all
plan.
of them, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I would love for him to maybe like release like what his plan was, so we can maybe read through it and see if it was better or worse or what. But
Yeah.
what why did they do the Ryan Johnson thing? Like, was he like taken up on something else? I don't know what's more important than
I
Star Wars,
I
but
think I think the trendy thing at the time was like having different directors do things. I mean, technically episode 5 was a different director than George, right? And it worked.
yeah,
Um I don't remember the exact reasoning, but like Ryan Johnson was kind of like a hot director at the time. Like he just came off of some big success. So I think it was just like a trendy thing they did.
yeah. And then
Um
they just didn't let them talk or something and maybe like bounce ideas off of each other because it went like this. J.J. Abrams sets up what I thought was a really
yeah,
good first episode,
yeah.
set it up perfect. Ryan Johnson, I have no problem with The Last Jedi. He made some weird choices in there. I didn't like what he did with Luke. And then the final episode was just J.J. Abrams essentially erasing everything that Ryan did in The Last Jedi and trying to
Yeah.
fix it. And
Yeah, it's just disjointed and like I'm of the opinion that like Ryan Johnson just like doesn't have any right to be writing about Star Wars because I just feel
yeah,
like he is not a fan.
right,
Like
right,
there's just like some fundamental things that like he did because it was like quippy and cool as a
yep,
director and like a movie making thing, but it's just like that's just not what Star Wars is here to be. Like Star Wars
exactly,
isn't here to win awards or be the coolest thing, if that's
right.
weird to say. Like it needs to fit into the box of Star Wars. So
Yeah, and Abrams was 100% a fan. You could tell from the
yeah,
first trailer for The Force Awakens that it was
yeah.
made by a fan, essentially. So, yeah, I don't know. I heard that Ryan Johnson was supposedly still making this trilogy of Star Wars movies. So
I
I
think
thought
I
it was
think
canceled, but I don't
I
know.
think it'd be fine if he because I think it'd be fine if he did like an Old Republic trilogy.
Yeah,
Like I
High
think that would be
Republic
fine.
maybe.
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate for him to do.
Yeah,
There's just too much interconnection with like a sequel trilogy to the Star Wars Skywalker saga.
right.
That's really what it was.
Right. Yeah. I think that the directors or whatever they are, the showrunners for Game of Thrones were supposed to do a Star Wars
Yes.
Old Republic or High Republic. I can't remember
I
what it
think they're
was
doing a
at the
High
time.
Republic.
Well, they're not doing it anymore,
Oh,
unfortunately. I think this season 8 of Game of Thrones kind of changed Disney's minds on that, which is unfortunate because I was really excited for that. Sounds awesome, right? The showrunners for Game of Thrones doing a High or Old Republic era trilogy would be awesome.
I think I'm about to restart Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it definitely but I'm like so freaking neck deep in Star Wars stuff right now. It's gonna take a while to crawl out. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, good job, good episode. I liked it. Good episode overall, both episodes, this and the show itself.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
I can't wait to see what happens this week.
I can't either. Yeah.
It's really ramping up, and I did forget to note, like, another really good time length on this episode. It was like 49 minutes long. I think that works really well with these.
That's the sweet spot, man. Yeah, for
I
sure.
hope they do it for Mando a little bit more and like just stretch those out. Even though they're supposed to be like spaghetti western episodic things, they fit, it works, but this is working really well for Boba Fett 'cause they
Yeah.
get so much in.
Right, definitely. I like I said, dude, I'd rather them be closer to an hour than closer to a half hour for sure.
Yeah.
Because I can't, like, the Clone Wars is a half hour and I kind of despise it. But what I really hate is anime episodes. They're always like 20 minutes and they have like a 5-minute intro. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's like 15,
Yeah.
like, Jesus, this is absurd. Like,
Clone
come
Wars
on.
does not do that, luckily.
Right, exactly. So I I would love if they were all closer to an hour. I always assumed that the Mandalorian did that because they were kind of testing it to see how it was going to be, if it was going to be popular, which, I mean, they should have known that it was going to be, but I can see why they would maybe not want to pump as much money into that first season as they did in subsequent seasons. So hopefully season 3 has the longer episode.
Season 2 started off with a long episode because they fought the Crate Dragon all in one go. But then like episode 3 or 2 was mega short because it was the like spider ice planet egg frog lady episode. That episode is literally like 23 minutes long. But I think it works because they jump around, they just tell a quick little adventure, and then they like move on.
Right.
And that's Mando's doing. But like this just works so well for this because there's so much to flesh out, and I just feel like they are taking the time to actually like cohesively put a story together here.
Right.
And even have time for like a bad chase sequence.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
And it still be a good episode.
If you're going to do a season of a show at 7 episodes, I think you have to take them at close to an hour as you can, especially with a character like this where you need to flesh out a lot. We needed to know how he got out of the Sarlacc pit, what happened after, so I think they're doing a good job with the timing on it. Hope it continues. I'd like the finale to be like an hour and a half personally.
It might be.
Maybe we'll see.
It might be.
Okay, before we, I know we're running a little long here, but when's the Mandalorian season 3 coming out?
I don't think anyone knows.
No one knows yet. Okay, because it's got to be close, right? This year. So we're gonna have Obi-Wan and the Mandalorian this year.
It would be a very long time without Mando if they did not release it this year. Yep, it's expected to release 2022.
Nice.
I mean, that's not like anything
groundbreaking,
concrete,
but I mean,
but it's probably going to be later this year because we're probably about to get Mando in this, and Book of Boba Fett is really kind of an extension of it anyways.
Right. So Obi-Wan's coming first for sure.
Yeah, I would say so because typically Mando would be coming out now.
Right. Yeah.
Beginning of the year. Because that would be pretty intense if they went Boba,
Mando.
It basically would be nonstop Star Wars like for the first half of the year. I imagine they got to space it out.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, I think that's all I have.
Cool. Well, thank you everyone for joining, listening, watching. We're always happy to do this. So it was a good time talking about Star Wars. And these are also such good series that kind of like break down just because they touch on so much, and there's just the spider web of Star Wars goes everywhere. But definitely subscribe to our YouTube. Go check out SJT's page. He has a ton of awesome remixes that are just like this outro we're about to play for you. Check out our Patreon and see Chad and Jordan's Spider-Man No Way Home, right?
Yes.
See their coverage there, and gotta get a Patreon episode out this month. It's busy, like you said.
Yeah,
it's been
for
busy.
sure. It has been.
And with that, we will play this sweet music and catch you all next time. Join us Thursday for a fun episode, I believe we'll be going deep down the rabbit hole of just appreciating Christopher Nolan. So if you like Christopher Nolan, that's probably the place to be Thursday. Till then, peace out.